Well, hello and welcome to the Bumper to Bumper podcast. I am Dave Riccio, sitting here along with Jon Riggle, my co-host, and together we are helping putting you in the know when it comes to your car. And John, one of the things that comes up, and I think goes on for a lot of people, they got some weird noise in their car.
Yeah.
And they just don't know what to do about it. They don't know if it's worth taking it to the shop, or maybe they got a noise they don't even know they have.
Yeah.
So let me go with both. The noise that you don't know you have.
Okay.
I get in these cars and I road test with just about every customer that comes through the door.
Yeah.
If they got a noise or vibration or shift concern, I want to drive it with them so I can verify the noise.
Sure.
And I get in the car and they point something out and I'm like, God, I hear that, but I don't know how you can't hear the bad wheel bearings, right?
Yeah.
And so we'll be cruising along and I've got different roads for different things. I got bumpy roads for suspension noises. I got smooth roads for hearing wheel bearing noises. And I'll swerve the car. And I go, you notice how the sound of your car changes when I swerve the car?
Yeah.
And they go, yeah. I mean, they get significant difference. If I go left, the noise gets louder. If I go right, the noise goes away.
Yeah.
And that's a wheel bearing noise. But it's one of those things where they didn't notice it because it gradually got worse over time.
Okay.
So sometimes when you have somebody else jump in your car, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
wow, they see something that got bad over time. And it goes to the point, like, how do you boil a frog?
Right.
Very slowly. So they're not aware they have a noise. They're not aware they may have a wheel that's ready to pop off the car.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny you mentioned that. I just did one the other day. A car came in with a noise, and it was a legit noise complaint.
Right.
I didn't get halfway across the parking lot, and I'm like, wow, that sounds like a wheel falling off the car. And I actually stopped and got out and looked, and sure enough, there was only 2 nuts holding that wheel on, and there was 1 broken stud and 2 more nuts missing. And I was like,
Right. Yes.
And this was just someplace else. And I'm like, whoa, you guys missed this? I don't know what's going on here.
Kind of a big deal.
But that wheel bearing noise, though, that's the one it does. It creeps up on them.
Mm-hmm.
And, they just kind of accept it. Yeah, that's just the noise that the car makes. It's
Gradual over time.
It's getting a little noisier. Yeah.
But it definitely, and then you get it fixed and it's like, oh my gosh, the noise is gone. It's quiet. It feels good again.
Yeah.
There was another one. I don't know if you remember this. This one may have been like 4 or 5 years ago. But I drove the car with the lady, and she was talking about a noise. And so we took it over to that big parking lot we like to use, and we do figure eights with the car so we can hear the pops and crunches and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm driving it around, and I pull it in the bay, or I pull it in. You take it in, you check it out, and you come in, you get me. He said, did you drive this car? And yeah, I did. I mean, I drove it like 80 miles an hour on the freeway with this lady.
Yeah.
You're like, check this out. And it had like 5-spoke wheels on it. And each of the deals had a crack
in them.
Yeah, and they were actually literally disconnected. And this lady's been driving around in this car. And not only that, I just jump in and drive it with her, and it was hellaciously dangerous.
Yeah.
So yeah, noises are one of those things that there's annoyance noises. I call that like the squeaks and the rattles. Brake noises come to mind.
Yeah.
A lot of cars come in with brake noises. And then some of the other noises that are common, I think the wheel bearing noise, I think we see that more than we could really probably even count.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, see, the trick with noises is all cars make noise.
Yeah.
Right? They'll make some kind of noise when you start them up and drive them.
Yeah.
And there's little variations from car to car. So the first part of my job, and it really starts early. It starts with the road test. We go out and road test with the customers to make sure we're all talking about the same noise, man. There's nothing worse than going, yeah, okay, I hear it. I fix the noise. And the customer's like, oh, yeah, that noise is, but that's not the one I wanted fixed. This is the one I wanted fixed. So we got to make sure everybody's on the same page with that. And the other thing we have to do is determine, is this an abnormal noise, or is this something wrong with the car? Is there nothing wrong with the car? Is this a normal wind noise? I drove one with a guy. It was a Ford, the boxy looking Ford. I'm trying to remember what the thing was.
Like Transit?
Yeah, something like that. But I remember his complaint. He just bought it. The car's brand new, had no miles on it. And his complaint was the car, vibrated at freeway speeds. And I'm driving the car and I'm going, you know what? This is by design. Oh, it's a Ford Flex, boxy looking thing. And I was like, no, there's just wind buffeting around this car, and it makes a noise. There's a frequency in the cabin that the guy picked up on. And I'm like, I can't fix this. I
No.
can't do this.
Right.
This is going to be inherent in the car. This is going to be here forever. And the guy's like, that's what I thought. But I needed somebody to tell me that because I thought I was going nuts. And I'm like, no.
It made me nuts, but the noise is okay.
Yeah. It's just kind of inherent. So there's nothing that I would do practically to fix that. And the guy was like, okay, well, I can live with that as long as there's nothing wrong with the car. There was nothing wrong with the car. Basically brand new.
So if you've got a noise in a car, what are some of the things you can do yourself? And I and I think about them. So when I was doing live radio and people were calling in with questions, they'd say, "Hey, I got this noise," and I would say, "Okay, is it consistent with road speed, how fast the car is traveling, or is it consistent with engine speed?"
Mm-hmm.
So you can see your engine speed. Most cars have a tachometer. It revs up between 6 and 800 RPM where it idles, and it can go all the way up to 6,000. You have to take it up to 6,000. But does the noise increase with engine speed or does it increase with road speed? So the faster you go, if the frequency of the noise changes the faster you go, well, that's more like a wheel bearing or some sort of bearing in the transmission or things like that, or a drive shaft bearing. I've seen center support bearings make noise, differentials make noise. So that tells you that direction. And then if it's changing with engine speed, well, that could be an alternator, could be a water pump. Could be anything rotating with the engine that's rotating.
Yeah.
Could be a fan pulley.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So that's one of the things we're going to do right off the bat. We're going to differentiate, is it consistent with road speed or is it consistent with engine speed? And that's going to be a differentiator.
Yeah.
So even as far as brakes go, what are some of the common brake noises that you see?
Oh, you get squeals, probably the number one. Squeaks and squeals out of brakes is probably the absolute number one, especially with disc brakes.
Right.
Drum brakes didn't quite to be, quite as finicky, but kind of inherent in the design of disc brakes is the fact that they vibrate. And the trick is to isolate the pads so that when they do vibrate, they don't transmit noises that are audible. So, there's a lot of factors that go into that. Pad compounds, isolation of the pads. Is there lubricant that goes on the tips of the pads where the contact, the hold downs, the guide pins? There's a lot of things regarding brakes that have to be done right in order to keep them quiet because their natural tendency is to go noisy. Yeah. So everything that we do is attempts to suppress that noise or make it not audible. And that's the biggie. And people talk about, my brakes are grinding. Well, if the brakes are grinding, if you have that big, heavy grind, you need to take a look at it. And people have all heard the term. The brakes have gone metal to metal. That means that the friction material is worn off. The brake backing plate is now up against the rotor. This thing's like a metal lathe, man. Only it's not making a smooth cut. It's just going to tear. It's just going to tear the rotor up, tear the pad up. But there are instances where I have seen cars that made a grind coming down to a stop that sounded just like they were metal to metal. And you'd pull the wheels off and look and go, the pads are thick. There's 10 millimeters of pad there. And it's just a situation where maybe you've got a caliper binding because the guides didn't get lubricated or the lubrication has gone from the guide pins or something. That caliper's in a bind or something like that. There's no lubrication on the end of the pads. Maybe the anti-squeal, anti-rattle clips weren't installed or missing or the stuff's worn. So you can't just automatically say, yeah, that noise is
metal to metal.
Metal to metal. You got to look. You got to look because noises are tough.
Right.
Noises are tough. Everybody asks me, hey, can you just come take a look at this? It's got a noise. I can't see noises.
No, you can't see noises.
I can't see noises. Sometimes I can see what causes them, and that's what we look for is things related, things that could vibrate at certain frequencies. But a lot of times I can't look at it and see the noise.
No, I think of all the noises over the years that I've fixed that were weird. We had a Dodge truck and it made this weird click click noise every now and then, and the guy was like, "Man, I've had it to every shop and no one can figure it out." Yeah. And so the way we figured it out is we went across the street to the mall and used the parking lot, and I literally got in the truck where that tech would just kind of drive the car into the curb, and I could see the center support flexing and hitting a little piece of weld on the drive shaft.
Wow.
You
Yeah.
would have never
nice.
seen that in
Yeah.
a million years. So we just knocked off a little weld on the drive shaft, noise fixed. But I think it took us 2 hours to get to that noise.
Yeah, that's the hard part, and that's kind of the hard part for noises for customers too, because people will come in and, I've got the squeaker rattle. I just want you to take a look at it. Okay, well, that's probably going to take some time. I may do a quick cursory and a trip around the block, but it may take some time. And as soon as you present them with an estimate for the amount of time that it's going to take to diagnose
They're
it,
like not that interested.
all of a sudden, some of those noises aren't so important.
We can live with that.
anymore.
We can live with that.
It depends, but
We had one the other day, and it came in. It was a Hyundai with roughly 145,000 miles on it. And the lady had been to a shop that she had gone to for a handful of times, and they said, "Hey, the noise that you're concerned about is a bad motor mount."
oh yeah,
She didn't believe him,
yeah,
so she took it to the next shop. The next shop says motor mounts are fine,
Okay.
right? And the next shop was kind of a quickie lube kind of deal.
yeah.
And so they said motor mounts are fine. So now she's confused because she went to this shop. They said motor mounts bad. She went to this shop. Said motor mounts are fine. She spent a whole bunch of money on flushes and oil changes and stuff like that on the second shop,
Uh-huh.
but she left with the same noise. So she's like, "Well, what is it?" She
Yeah.
doesn't know who to believe.
Yeah.
So I go, "I tell you what. Why don't you bring it by? Let's just go take it for a drive. I'll do it with you as a courtesy."
Mhm.
And so I go drive it with her, and I'm driving. It sounds absolutely like a suspension noise. I'm thinking for sure the bearing plates are bad or struts bad, something like that. And so I said, okay, it seems suspension related, but I never tell until I've actually done the work. I don't want to give people an answer.
Oh, yeah,
because I'm
yeah.
just going to be wrong. I'm going to look bad. I don't like to look bad.
Yeah.
So
I suck at guessing.
I suck at guessing, right? So why not test it out? So anyway, so we scheduled for an appointment. She brought it back the following week, got her into a loaner car, and you drove and you came back. You and I drove it together.
Yeah, we went together. You wanted to show me that one. We took it over and we drove it over the speed bumps in the parking lot.
Yep. I thought for sure when we were done with that drive that it was suspension, and I was right.
I was like, it sounds just like a bearing plate. Sounds like the
Yeah.
upper right front bearing plate. Sounds just like it.
So now I pull it out of the needs estimate rack and I look at it, and you wrote up motor mount. I'm like, come on, you got to describe this to me.
Yeah.
And you said, sure enough, the mounts collapsed where the metal stoppers hitting the housing of the mount, and that's the noise.
Yeah, I could see the scarring in between the two. I had to look really close. I was impressed. The one guy caught it. The one
Yeah, that was a good
one guy
catch.
was this mount's blown out, and sure enough, I looked at it and I'm like, well, I'll be darned. Car had a little bit of a mount and vibration. We noticed that when we got it. It was pretty subtle though.
I would say the guy at that prior shop, though, he did give her a quote on a mount, but he also gave her a quote on shocks and struts.
Shocks and struts, and I think lower control arms was in
Yeah.
there. She had like 3 invoices that I was looking at, and one of them had a list of maintenance items and stuff, and
So when I called her up, I said, yeah, you know what? It looks like the motor mount. The motor mount is substantial noise.
well,
I can't
here's
really.
my problem. I pulled it in and I went through it, and I'm looking at the suspension, and I'm going, "There's nothing wrong here."
Yeah.
I see no loose, and I really shook it down. I was like, it sounds so much like a bearing plate. So what I do, one of the things I do, I'll raise them up a couple inches off the ground, put a big bar underneath. I'll put my hand on top of the bearing plate or the
That's a
strut.
good idea.
And I crank on them. I've got another tool that I use. It is a tube that you hook onto a breaker bar that goes under the tire. I lock the brakes, I put it under the tire, and I rotate this tube back and forth. So you got the tire here, you got a tube rotating here. Gives me a whole bunch of leverage, and I can really shove the suspension back and forth without putting too much effort into it. And I did that, and I'm like, all the bushings in this thing are good. Somebody had called out the cracking in the compliance bushings in the lower control arms. Folks, that's real common. They all have a little crack.
They have a little crack, and that is probably the most overzealously oversold.
Yeah, when the
component,
guys
I think,
pick the
that's
car
out
up
there.
on the hoist, the control arm hangs down. And you can look, and you can see they'll start to split out on the edges and stuff. But it's like, man, those bushings have a lot of life in them before they need to be addressed. So, I was like, no, it's not control arm bushings. It's not struts. I can't pick it out in the bearing plates. Possible it's internal in the strut, and sometimes this noise kind of made a noise when the suspension would top out. After you went over the bump, compressed the suspension, and it came back up, it would make a pop. That's what made us think,
Suspension.
bearing plates. And I was thinking, I've heard struts do that too when they're low on oil. They get to the top, there's no more damping, and they top out.
Yep, seen that same noise for a strut.
Yeah, but these things didn't leak. They look good. Car actually rode nice. It wasn't bad.
I'm impressed with how much difference there is driving it after we did the mount. I mean, it's totally fixed.
Right.
And I said, I don't want to fully rule out struts yet, but let's do this mount first because that's obviously bad, and I think that's going to take care of it.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay. But I think she had a lot more confidence because of the time we took. We took her for a drive. We went around the block. We talked through it. I sent her some information on motor mounts, how they work, what they are, that kind of stuff. So she finally pulled the trigger on it. So some things that you can do as a vehicle owner if you've got a noise and you want to dig into it. So we talked about maybe there's some noise. You can see if the noise is consistent with the speed of the car. Mm-hmm. You can see if the noise is consistent with the speed of the engine. Mm-hmm. The other one is air noises. So I've had cars come in and they're making noise, and it's an air noise. Well, things you can try with air noises is sometimes that's the actual air condition.
Okay.
Right? So you're driving down the road, you got this whistling noise. I remember one I fixed years ago. It made noise on the freeway, so it sounded like an external noise on the car, right? And so I'm driving it. A couple of us are driving it, and I took the air condition. I moved it from fresh air to recirc, and the noise went away.
Okay.
So no longer am I pumping air into this, and the noise was the air actually escaping the vehicle and making a little whistle.
Yeah.
As soon as I turned it to recirc, no longer am I pumping air in. I'm just recycling the air that's in the car. Noise goes away. So these are things you can do and try. And like even if you've got a noise in your car and it's consistent with engine speed, and you push the AC button and it goes away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Push it back on, the noise comes back. Well, could be related to an air conditioned compressor. Could be related to the pulley that services that compressor. There's going to be a tensioner. Or something along the way.
I've seen alternators with the overrunning clutches that when you flip the air conditioner on, they put load on that serpentine belt, and the alternator would rattle. And I've seen people make that mistake. They call it tensioner, they call it compressor, and it's like, oh no, there's an overrunning clutch in that alternator that can make that noise. And
I vaguely remember doing a Volkswagen like that.
Oh, we had the Volkswagens with overrunning clutches that were snapping the
compressor.
AC compressors. Yeah, taking the
taking
snout off the compressors.
So brake noises, bearing noises, mount noises. Mount noises, and when a car gets older, and this is one of those things, is how do you boil a frog slowly over time? So your engine mounts are made of rubber, and what they do is they isolate the engine and transmission or vibrating here, and they don't want you to feel it in the passenger compartment. So this bottom hand is the vehicle, and you're going to feel it in the driver's seat. So they're mounted on rubber, but what happens, like a mattress or like a pair of shoes, that rubber or that cushioning slowly gives out over time. Mm-hmm. At some point, it's gone all the way down. There's no more give in it, and it's what I call a grounded mount because it is now you've got direct contact between the vibration of the engine and the vibration of the frame, which translates into the driver's seat. Yeah. And when somebody comes in, because it happens slowly over time, it's like you don't know your mattress is worn out till you get a new mattress. You're like, oh my God, I got the best night's sleep of my life. Yeah. Well, you said that about that other mattress 10 years earlier. You're like, oh, I got the best sleep overnight. So motor mounts deteriorate, and we get in a lot of cars in the motor mounts, and that's one of the common things people don't necessarily address is motor mounts. Yeah. Squeaks and rattles, sometimes that's just a matter of putting your finger on it.
I got one for you. Differential noises. Rear diff howls is one that creeps up on people over a period of time, and a lot of times they don't really catch it right away. They get used to it, it's singing a little bit out of the rear end, and that's another thing that you can do as a do-it-yourselfer or even if not going to do it yourself,
just want to know something about it.
Great piece of information is: does the noise increase in amplitude or volume as I'm accelerating? Or when I'm decelerating, does it go away in a neutral state? If I'm in a steady state cruise, does that noise tend to go away? Maybe I back out of the throttle and now I get a howl out of it, or I get a clunk or a bump or something. All of those little descriptive things when you call to find out about your noise. Now, we kind of go around the back end on that one, because if you're going to do noises, you need to have a really good description of the noise. There's nothing worse than getting an RO that says, check noise. Which noise? Okay, at least describe it for me. Is it a squeak, a rattle, a thump, a clunk? Sounds like change in a tin can. Just let the people get really descriptive about it, and sometimes they have a hard time describing them.
Right.
Rumble strip vibrations go right over their head most of the time until I say it. And I'm like driving along.
Oh,
with-
yeah.
And I had one the other day. I drove with the guy, and the guy had his wife in the front seat. She was describing her. I'm talking to her, and I'm like 40, 45, kind of get in the gas, get kind of a vibration or something out. And the guy in the back seat, her husband, he says, rumble strip? And I'm like, would you describe it as driving over onto a rumble strip or something like that? And right then I just kind of leaned into the throttle a bit, and it goes, right. And it was like, yeah, that's it right there. I said, yeah, we call that rumble strip vibration. It was a good call, you know.
It is. When I answer the phone, because I take these phone calls and people describe it to me, and I have them describe it to me over the phone. I've been doing this a long time, and I have a pretty good seat of the pants feel. No. So when someone's talking to me, they say, yeah, my transmission's slipping, and it seems to stutter or not know what gear it's in. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. What does that sound like to you?
Misfire.
Misfire the engine, right?
Yeah.
And so I know when I'm talking to them, it's probably not transmission related.
Yeah.
Now, if they were to tell me rumble strip, I'd say, okay.
Yeah.
That tells me transmission.
Yeah.
More than likely.
Yeah, they happen at two different frequencies. They produce a similar sensation, and we get this jerking and this vibration out of the car. And it's real similar. It's easy to confuse noises.
I got a noise in my Tacoma. It's still maybe just barely out of warranty, but it's got maybe 33,000 miles on it. And it's got the howl when you let off the gas. Dude, you can hear from the, and it's, I don't know, this is a big enough deal for me to make an issue of. I probably, a lot of Toyotas seem to make noise.
I've heard a lot of differentials that made a lot of noise for a long time. It's kind of one of those things.
The nature of the gears.
Yeah, you kind of have to make the determination, and that's the subjective part to it. It's tough.
Is it fundamentally a problem, or is it just a little bit of an annoyance noise? That's a little bit of the nature. I mean, all mechanical things are going to make noise.
Right.
Manufacturers try and disguise it for operator comfort, as best they can. That's why I have these really squishy motor mounts to make everything feel
you got
real
big
nice.
dampers hanging off of stuff. You got this big 5-pound weight hanging off the
back of the
pinion or the back of the transfer case or whatever. I see them hanging off exhaust systems and stuff. There's all these resonant vibrations that start to stack up in these cars, and nobody wants. Everybody wants one as quiet as possible, and that's understandable, But as you make cars lighter, and that's one of the things that's really happening. These cars getting lighter and lighter. They get stiffer and stiffer. Trying to keep noise out of the passenger compartment becomes more and more difficult as you start reducing mass and stuff. It's hard to dampen noises and things. So it gets worse. As this stuff gets more complicated, there's more opportunities for noises, and they change, and different cars make different noises.
Well, if you've got a car and you've got a noise and you want to get it fixed, communication with the shop is good. If you can get a technician or someone in the office to go verify the noise with you, I think that's going to be a whole lot more successful. And don't underestimate noises, because noises are a lot of times hard to find. I've seen us chase noises for hours, and finally find them. And when we find them, it's like, oh yeah, that should have been obvious, but not really. And some of them we find them like, wow, we're lucky we found that. That was a tough noise.
Get ladder racks that howl. I had a aftermarket grill that howled. And, some of this stuff is not stuff you look at and go, oh yeah, that's it.
Right. Well, thanks for joining us. If there's something you want us to talk about or educate you on here at the Bumper to Bumper podcast, please drop us a comment, and we'll be sure to try and cover it on the show. Thanks for joining us.